This week, we become a rollercoaster tycoon on the Xbox One thanks to ScreamRide. Mel masters an awkward new control scheme in Ubisoft's adorable new one, Grow Home, and Jonny Robot blasts into some beautifully rendered space as he explores Homeworld Remastered. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week saw the Game Developers Conference descend on San Francisco, bringing with it a stack of impressive announcements and updates. We'll take a closer look at what happened in next week's episode, but there's one thing we cannot ignore. Valve is officially working on virtual reality technology, including its own hardware. One headset we were shown is named Vive and is a joint project between Valve and mobile manufacturer HTC. It's a pretty impressive bit of kit. Twin 1200 by 1800 displays show images at 90 FPS, and your position is tracked by a gyro sensor, an accelerometer, and a laser position center, meaning your computer can tell where you've moved to within 1/10 of a degree. Interestingly, there's no audio component to the headset, so you'll be able to wear your own headphones, a decision that might make the Vive a bit cheaper as well as a bit more comfortable. With Valve releasing more information at GDC and promising still more to come, it looks like there might soon be more than one big name in virtual reality. But there is always bad news to balance out the good, and this time it's Rockstar Games bringing us crashing back down to earth. The PC version of Grand Theft Auto V has been delayed again, marking the third time the home computer edition of the open world crime spree has been pushed back. The first proper release date we heard was January 2015, which was switched to March 24 earlier this year. The studio explained that it needed a few extra weeks of testing and polish, which is the same reasoning behind this latest shift. Mark April 14 in your calendars if you want to get amongst the streets of Los Santos on PC, but maybe mark this one in pencil. We won't believe any dates until we've got the game in our hands. More bad news emerged for Resident Evil fans, as it turns out Capcom made a mistake listing co-op multiplayer in Resident Evil Revelations 2 Steam listing. It seems that co-op multiplayer was originally included in the game, but the feature was scrapped some time ago to ensure a stable user experience across a variety of PC settings. Someone forgot to update the game's feature list, leading to more than 40% of Steam user reviews marking the game pretty harshly. However, there is some unexpectedly good news tucked away in this one. Capcom is offering refunds to gamers who are upset at the lack of co-op play, but there's more. As it's only the PC version that's been affected, an enterprising modder has quickly whipped up a little offline co-op mode, so two players can work together to take down the bad guys. Some other good stuff, if a little bit weird, is the introduction of WoW tokens to World of Warcraft. After 10 years on the market, Blizzard is now taking a leaf out of EVE Online's book, which will allow gamers to pay for their WoW subscription using in-game gold. Prices are dictated by Blizzard rather than players, and they will consider supply and demand as well as the overall WoW economy. Blizzard denies this is a step towards a free-to-play future, saying instead that it's a direct response to third-party gold sellers. Now, if you want to spend real money to earn in-game gold, there is a completely legitimate way to do so. You can buy tokens using your credit card and then sell them at the World of Warcraft in-game auction house for some in-game funds. When someone else buys the token, it is soul-bound to their character and cannot be resold, forcing them to redeem it for 30 days of in-game time. A few weird tidbits for you today. Dying Light seems to be in the running for most expensive, most excessive collector's edition ever, with the My Apocalypse edition priced at £250,000. That's about 500,000 Australian dollars. For that, you get 4 copies of the game, some headphones, a pair of night vision goggles, adult diapers in case the game's too scary, a human-sized volatile statue, and the opportunity to play a round or two with the developers. Plus, there are some zombie avoidance parkour lessons and a custom-built zombie-proof shelter thanks to the team at Tiger Log Cabins. Currently, this one's only on offer in the UK, and we're not sure how much it'd cost to ship it to other countries, but hey, where there's a will, there's a way. Physicists at the University of Leicester have proven something that most people probably figured out for themselves. Taking a leap of faith off of a building and landing in a haystack will probably kill you. If you land correctly, you can most likely survive a jump from up to 13 metres or so without too much drama, but a leap from anything higher, like the 50-metre cathedral shown in Assassin's Creed, isn't going to end well for you. The long-awaited Tomb Raider movie has taken another step forward, even though it's basically to catch up after taking a couple backward. We now know that the film will be a retelling of the Lara Croft origin story, and Evan Doherty is now officially on board to write the script after working on recent films like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Snow White and the Huntsman. No word just yet on either a time frame for this one or just who will be stepping into Lara's iconic boots, but we'll keep you posted. And finally this week, another big reveal out of GDC, 3D Realms and Interceptor Entertainment have given us our first proper look at upcoming shooter Bombshell, a top-down isometric experience that has risen from the ashes of Duke Nukem.
The Kaya are coming, Shelly!
Don't let him get to you, Shelly.
I'm glad you recognize the sound of an old friend, Shelly.
You see, last year we were promised the return of the Duke, but then all traces of Duke Nukem mass destruction disappeared from the internet following legal drama involving developer 3D Realms and new rights holders Gearbox Software. Not long after the dust settled, 3D Realms and Interceptor unveiled another new game with a Save the Earth storyline and the bombastic aesthetics awfully similar to what we'd been shown before, but this time the protagonist was a girl, Shelly Bombshell Harrison. Obviously, it's now a completely different experience, and it's due out by the end of the year. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
100 years ago, a satellite detected an object under the sands of the Great Desert. An expedition was sent. An ancient starship buried in the sand. Deep inside the ruin was a single stone that would change the course of our history forever. On the stone was etched a galactic map and a single word more ancient than the clans themselves. Higara, our home.
Very few things in existence are as cool and awe-inspiring as space. True fact, ask a scientist. Or watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. Same conclusion either way. Now, as an inept Federation captain once said, space really is the final frontier, and since groggily mumbling those words, many games had ventured into the celestial void, with very few being able to truly capture it. Homeworld is one of those elite few. When many aimed for the moon, Homeworld decided, to hell with it, we're going to the stars, baby! The combination of RTS and interstellar conflict is nothing new nowadays. Then again, neither was it when Homeworld released way back in 1999. Back then gamers had StarCraft, Dune, Star Wars, other games with the star prefix, but Homeworld was different. Homeworld was actually set exclusively among the stars. Now I'm not gonna lie, 1999 for me was all about my PS1, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and Pokemon cards. So I can't compare the original to the remastered edition. However, playing this game for the first time, holy crap, it is something else. Homeworld will be familiar to those who have played an RTS before, tasking you with micromanaging, gathering resources, and building a huge army. But that's where the similarities end. This is not a game where clicking faster than a coked up stockbroker will give you an advantage. Oh no, this is a slow-paced experience, where metal monoliths cruise through the endless black ocean at their own pace, even if they are being bombarded by enemy fighters. So once the lasers start firing, it's time for a Star War. Combat revolves around a rock, paper, scissors, Star Destroyer kind of system, where all ships have strengths and weaknesses. Your fast interceptors can hold their own against other fighters, but pitting them against a frigate is like throwing a handful of bullets at a tank. It just doesn't end well. Initially learning what ships are right for the job can be a bit daunting, especially on the fly when the enemy has caught you off guard by jumping out of lightspeed and proceeding to run train on your ass. It's during these huge scale battles that Homeworld's most unique mechanic comes into play. Its actual use of space. In space. It has a Z-axis. Other than tripping you the hell out the first time you're trying to navigate it, once grasped, the ability to travel through a full 3D space allows for some awesome evasive maneuvers, ambushes, and targeted attacks. Huh? That capital ship has weak armor underneath, you say? Just like that. But from what I'm told, all that pretty much remains unchanged from the original. Now the visuals, that's what's truly been remastered, and it looks pretty damn amazing. Homeworld embraces that 80s visual style of sci-fi, where ships have slick paint jobs and leave neon jet streams behind them as they go through space. Full-scale skirmishes quickly turn to light shows of explosions, lasers, and neons, where you end up super captivated, only to realize you gone done goofed big time and now you have no fleet left. On the topic of fleets, every single ship is just begging for you to zoom in and inspect it, from the tiniest of scout ships to the mighty HMS Judd Nelson, which is what I named my battlecruiser. The attention to detail is insane, falling just shy of you being able to make out the futuristic pop rivets. What's also pretty rad is the ships aren't inspired by traditional rockets or shuttles, which gives them a real sense of character and wonder. Function? Pfft. Impractical hulking space boats is what I'm all about. Not to be outdone by the ships, space itself is a gorgeous sight to behold. The glow of distant nebulas, planets, stars, clouds of dust, you're in frickin' space! At times I'd lock the camera onto a resource ship and just watch it, blissfully entranced by the majesty of nothingness. And as beautiful as it was, it felt equally vast and equally petrifying. Homeworld Remastered is a hard game to fault. It looks amazing, it sounds phenomenal, it plays fantastically, but it also demands a lot. And that might be its only issue. It's hard, and it requires time and patience to be invested. And then it requires some more. But doing so feels rewarding, with each victory being of your own design. You end up basically becoming Space Washington. And as Sagan once said, we are all just star stuff that has taken destiny into its own hands. So strap in, power up them guns, and punch it, Chewie.
With so many great games coming out for PC this year, it might be time to update your gaming rig. Happily, the guys at AMD are hoping to make things a little bit easier for you with an impressive new range of video cards. Thanks to AMD and umart.com.au, we have one MSI R9 285 2GB card to give away to one lucky Player Attack viewer. All you have to do to win this amazing prize is head to playerattack.com, follow the links to the AMD umart competition, fill out your name and contact details, and enter the secret keyword, which is on your screen right now. The competition is open to anyone in Australia and runs all the way up until March 13, with the winner announced on Player Attack shortly after. For the full terms and conditions, see our website.
We will soon be arriving at ScreamWorks. Thank you for volunteering for the program. Your experiences here will have a direct influence on tomorrow's society.
I have a confession to make. I had never been on a roller coaster until just a couple of years ago when I gave in to peer pressure and somehow found myself in a line at Disneyland. I'm still not a massive fan of theme park rides, that is until I'm sitting in the carriage, strapped in, and we start moving. So ScreamRide was a bit of an interesting experience for me. It's mostly a modern adaptation or a spiritual successor to the 1999 classic Rollercoaster Tycoon, released as a new budget title for Xbox consoles. And while Chris Sawyer is not involved this time, it's not a complete rip-off of his idea either. Frontier Developments also worked on Rollercoaster Tycoon 3, which was released 10 years ago. Anyway, that's enough about history. If you were hoping for a simple theme park building exercise, that's only part of what ScreamRide is about. There are actually 3 game modes: Screamrider, Engineer Mode, and Demolition Expert. They're each very different and don't quite come together into a coherent game, but they're mostly fun enough by themselves. ScreamRider mode has you actually steering a roller coaster car around a track, trying to entertain or terrify the helpless occupants. You have no control over the track itself, but you can accelerate, brake or turbo your way around with obstacles and jumps added in later levels. It's sort of like the motorbike physics title Trials, but you're literally on rails, so your choices are pretty limited. Engineer mode is quite thoughtful, but also quite tricky. This is the section where you can build your own coaster tracks, meeting certain challenges along the way. You might need to use specific track pieces, reach precise speeds, or simply try to make the most nausea-free ride you can manage. I know, it goes against everything you want to do, just bear with it. Demolition Expert, on the other hand, is just what it says on the tin. Your roller coaster becomes a weapon and your job is to send cars as quickly as possible into nearby buildings. It seems inspired by Angry Birds or maybe Crash Mode from Burnout, as you repeat each level over and over and over in order to get the best score. Yes, it's simple. Yes, it's repetitive, but yes, blowing things up is always fun, and the on-the-fly physics here are amazing, with one well-placed bit of debris triggering a chain reaction of explosions. That said, if none of those things sound quite like you, there is also a sandbox mode. But to get there properly, you have to make your way through the main campaign, unlocking set pieces as you go. Once you do get there though, you can check out other people's creations or share your own online. The problem is, ScreamRide really isn't all that great. It's been developed simultaneously for Xbox One and Xbox 360, meaning that it did run into a few hardware limitations. While the physics are really solid and quite spectacular, the graphics are uninspired and lackluster, which makes this one less fun than it could have been. If it had been an Xbox One exclusive with real effort put into making it super pretty and super shiny, some of its other faults could maybe have been overlooked. It wouldn't take much, for example, for the awkward camera angles to be ignored, except for maybe when the game's looking completely the wrong direction. Better graphics might also have meant a larger text size, so we didn't have to squint at the TV to read each tiny label. Extra polish could make the seemingly endless cutscenes more enjoyable and less irritating. ScreamRide doesn't seem to know quite what it wants to be. It's a little bit too complicated to be a pure casual game, but not in-depth enough to properly fill the simulator niche, and the biggest issue is probably one that a coat of paint would not have fixed. The game is significantly less freeform than you would expect from a spiritual successor to one of the greatest construction simulators of all time. The three choices of gameplay mode are unusual and awkwardly diverse. They feel almost like they would have worked better as 1 or 2 level minigames, or maybe unlockable content, rather than the meat of the game. I'm not going to go into the idea of value for money for video games, but ScreamRide is sitting at an awkward price point. In Australia, it'll set you back around $50. That's halfway between a full-price AAA release and a budget downloadable title, and it doesn't quite feel comfortable there. A little extra content, a more accessible sandbox mode, some more flashy visuals, even something resembling a backstory would have bumped it up quite easily to a full-price release, but as it is, you're probably better off waiting for this one to hit the bargain bins. Or until it hits PC. That could work.
Over the past 5 or so years, a new breed of games has popped up, where awkward controls are all part of an unusual charm. In the early days, there was QWOP, where you controlled a runner's thighs and calves separately as you tried to win a 100-metre sprint. Then there was Octodad, where you play as an octopus trying to fit into human society, and where each of the hero's tentacle limbs were controlled independently. Now, there's a new uncoordinated hero, Bud, the botanical utility droid who stars in Ubisoft's latest Grow Home. Bud has been placed on a new planet where he's been given the job of growing a special plant to oxygenate the atmosphere. There's another reason to grow the star plant too. This wonderful vine is almost like the fairy tale beanstalk, and it's the only way for Bud to get back to his mothership. It's this climbing action where things get really fun. While the little orange robot can walk around without too much drama, his right and left arms are controlled separately, with individual buttons on a controller or with the right and left mouse buttons on your mouse. Grabbing an item requires holding both buttons at once, and climbing sees you alternating mouse clicks rhythmically or otherwise as you like. Using a gamepad really is recommended, but even then your hands are going to ache after playing this one. You also need to be a little bit careful. Every now and then, Bud will get tangled up. This is more of a bug than a feature. His arms might get wrapped around himself or something else. His limbs can twist into knots and his head might even pop off. But this happens rarely enough that it certainly doesn't ruin the experience. A quick reset back to the last checkpoint and you're off again. But while Octodad and recent indie smash I Am Bread are awkward for awkward's sake, Grow Home has taken a different approach. It's almost comforting in its clumsiness. Bud is like a little kid learning to walk or to climb, and as you get better at the controls, he gets better at navigating his world. The mechanics add even more childlike wonder to an already adorable character. Looking after the star plant is a simple enough task, even for those of us without the green thumbs. You need to help Bud climb the plant until he finds a branch, which he then guides into a floating, glowing energy rock. As anyone who's tried to train any sort of climbing plant will tell you, this can provide a challenge. Plants in Bud's world, just like in our own, don't really like growing in straight lines, so getting a branch from point A to point B can require some careful coordination. The game quickly turns from a pure open world exploration title to a sort of puzzle platformer, where Bud has to create his own platforms out of branches, looping together energy rocks and climbing from sprout to sprout. The higher you go, the more interesting things get. Grow Home is procedurally generated, meaning no two playthroughs are the same. Be careful though, it doesn't take much for Bud and the camera to plummet back down to solid ground. If you're prone to vertigo, maybe look away at that point. Grow Home started life as an experiment, like so many good things do. A random project by an 8-person team inspired by things like Mario 64, Wall-E, and even Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Once the game was shared around the office, management decided it was good enough to see a full release, bursting onto the scene like some sort of unexpected sprout. Ubisoft first announced the game in late January, and by early February it was available for PC gamers around the world. Just like its super quick development timeframe, this isn't a game that'll suck up too much of your time. It's not particularly challenging, platforming puzzles are fun rather than brain twisting, but if you've got a younger gamer who wants to try something new, or if you're looking for a fun, mindless way to while away a few hours, Grow Home is pretty perfect. It's bright and cheerful with a gorgeous music and an adorable main character, so maybe save this one for a rainy day to enjoy Bud's world when yours is gloomy.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, it's Friday the 13th, and Jonny Robot joins us for a loving look back at some of the most scary and the most cringeworthy horror video games of all time. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.